Welcome to Wine Library TV. I am your host, Gary Vaynerchuk, and this, my friends, is the Thunder Show, aka the Internet's most passionate wine program, and we have a fantastic show. As you know, this long journey, almost 900 episodes, we have been focused on getting people to try new things, understand that there's other wines in the world besides, Napa and Barolo and Bordeaux, and explore palates. And one area that I have not covered very well, and which excites me about this show, is the category we're going to look at today. And we have a wonderful guest. So why don't you tell the Vaniacs who you are and what we're going to be doing today?
Sure. Hi, I'm Markus Stolz. I'm German, and I live with my wife, who is Greek, and our 4 children in Athens in Greece. And by the way, it's my wife's birthday today. So
Happy birthday. What's her name?
Alexandra.
Alexandra, happy birthday.
Alexandra, I love you to pieces. Thanks.
It's her birthday today.
Today.
And she allowed you to come to the States.
Well, I kind of sneaked out, yes.
You said, look over here and just kind of...
I got my kids covering everything, so...
Right. She's an amazing wife for allowing you that.
She is. She
awesome.
is. Well, and I moved to Greece about 6.5 years ago, and I've been a wine lover all my life, or, more than 20 years at least. And when I moved to Greece, I really got into Greek wines. I was astonished by the amount of grape varieties grown there, and I really loved the fact that you could expand your palate. Before that, I've always tried, as most people, you stick to 4 red varieties, 4 whites, and then it suddenly starts to hit you because you have all these new sensations. And I really liked that, and I saw that the quality of the wines was improving year after year. I've always worked in finance most of the time in my life, but I want to get professionally involved. And so about 18 months ago, I decided I should go into Greek wines and starting to promote the wines. When I went out, at first I thought I go to the agents in Germany. I work as an agent for the wine merchants in Germany. And I went out with the Greek wines and showed them around, and there was literally 0 interest. So, honestly, people didn't know Greek wines, and people had actually a negative image of Greek wines.
Did you ever drink any Greek wines when you lived in Germany?
When I lived in Germany, no, because you don't get them. They're not available. You don't find them at the wine merchants. Greek wines are usually imported by Greeks, by Greek importers, and they sell them to the Greek community and to the Greek restaurants. So it's very hard to find Greek wines in Germany. The same goes for the UK and probably the same for the States as well. Absolutely.
I mean, I think Greek wines, there's a couple of challenges. One, the varietals and a lot of producers are difficult to pronounce for Americans.
Yes.
Which is not something so unheard of for German wines and Austrian wines in the US either.
Absolutely. Even some Italian wines are hard to pronounce.
From somebody who pronounces everything wrong, like I do, I can imagine, that being a hurdle. Also, there's just a lot of different varietals that, a lot of people aren't aware of. And I think one of the big eye-opening situations when people look at this is how high quality the wines really are.
And they have really done tremendous...
Did that stun you when you first got there? Did you walk in saying, I'm leaving Germany, it's a lot of great Italian wines and French, and I get my hometown German wines, and now I'm going to Greece, am I going to be able to find good wine?
I was totally surprised, because I didn't know a lot about Greek wines before myself. And when I started trying them, I thought, wow, there's really quality here. And then when you see the improvements year after year, you think, wow, there's really something to it. There's something happening. And then I looked at the export numbers and I thought, whoa, less than 10% of the wines are exported. And from...
Bing! Opportunity.
Bing opportunity. And I looked further into it, and about half of the wines that are exported come from 3 of the largest producers in Greece.
Which often mean, and in this case I know they are because I've had some of them, not the greatest quality.
Not necessarily the greatest quality, decent quality, but if you're a large producer, you can only put in so much effort. You try to produce a great product, but it's not like a tailor-made small winery product. And in Greece we have about 800 different wineries. About 10 of them are large producers. They produce more than 1 million bottles a year.
So there's 800 producers?
800 producers.
Or so. And how many were there 5 years ago?
5 years ago, under 500.
So there's been quite an explosion.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And a lot of artisanal, smaller producers?
Many smaller producers. We have about another 50 to 60 producers who are kind of like medium-sized. They produce between 250,000 and 500,000 bottles. And then we have, about 740 that produce probably less than 50,000 bottles. And there are so many small family wineries around that produce, maybe 10,000 or 20,000 bottles who really have never been on the export market. but you get some very interesting wines from them.
So you started doing the homework, and then about 18 months ago you decided to dive in.
Yeah, exactly.
And you decided to be the agent in Germany for Greek wines.
That was my first thought.
Because that was the easiest thing,
because
right?
I'm me as a German, of course.
Makes all the sense in the world.
So,
but they have literally no interest.
there was no interest.
Below zero.
Below zero.
Right.
So I thought, okay.
They made you buy German wine when you'd walk in and try to sell them Greek wine.
They tried. Love
Okay.
that. So I thought, okay, I have a great product, but there is no market there at the moment. So
I'm sorry to interrupt you, and I know you're going to kill me. I interrupted him. I get it. Did you think about selling German wines in Greece?
I have that thought in my mind as well, because in Greece you don't find a lot of German wines either. Then again, Greece is kind of like a smaller country. So I really believe in the quality of the Greek wines.
Got it.
So I decided, okay, there is no market there, so I have to create the market. I have to create the demand. And I thought, okay, I have to educate people. So I started writing a blog. And then just a year ago, I also got my Twitter account and did a lot of work on the social networking circle.
How did that work for you?
Brilliant. Actually, nearly every contact I've made has been via Twitter. And
Go figure.
I've talked to the wine critics in Germany, because that was one of the things I wanted to do, because they had never written about Greek wine. So I thought, okay, would be nice to get some wine critics on board. So I made contact with them.
So what you're saying is social networks like Twitter and Facebook allowed you to get to people otherwise you wouldn't have been able to.
Tell me who I'm. I'm no one. I mean, I'm the little guy sitting in Greece and no one knew me.
Sure.
So with the social networking that has the social networking has really allowed me to get to people, to make contact with people, to get them at least interested, and then I go out and I try to pull the real contacts into real life. So I went to Germany a couple of times. I organized tastings with the wine critics, and they tasted for the first time. They tasted, really good quality Greek wines, and they started to write about them in a positive way.
Which is a good thing.
Which is a very good thing. It was huge for me. And
so you started getting retailer and restaurateur and importers
exactly. Now I have the attention, from some importers, from the gastronomy, from wine merchants, and also from the end consumer. And now I'm trying to build on that.
And so, are you looking to invade the U.S.?
To invade, I get, the U.S. seems to be a little bit more open when it comes towards Greek wine. Yeah. And what I want to do is I want to work with American importers. There are quite a few Greek importers here, and they are doing a very good job. But I think I want to get some interest from some American importers because they have probably different contacts in the States on distribution level, and I think that might be quite interesting.
So let's take a look at what you brought here. There's 3 wines that you brought. What is this first wine that you brought?
The first wine is a grape varietal called Malagousia. Malagousia is a very interesting grape variety. I think everyone is talking about Acetico in Greece, which is phenomenal. And I think right after Acetico should be placed Malagousia. It's indigenous. It was in the 70s. There was a professor traveling around in Greece collecting all the grape varietals that no one knew about, and he just planted them in a vineyard. And in this vineyard, the winemaker for the first year, he just, put everything together and made a mix just to see is there anything in it. And then he looked, and he quite quickly he saw this Malagousia grape and started to produce an own wine from it, and he was stunned by the results.
And Malagousia doesn't have any DNA relationship to anything else. It's indigenous to Greece.
To Greece, it comes originally from the western central part of Greece.
Got it.
It's now grown all over Greece.
Has no cousins or relations to
not
anything?
That I know of. No.
Nothing to like Malagousia.
No.
Okay.
No, nothing. And this winemaker, Yero Vasilio, he started his own business, and he produced the first Malagousia wines in the 90s, and they literally stunned the Greek market. This was like a rich flavor, and by now many estates grow Malagousia. Now,
who's this producer?
This producer is called Tetramidos.
Tetramidos.
It's from the northern part.
10 to 15 US dollars, you would guess.
That's my guess. Yeah, that's my guess.
Very good. Not available in the States.
Not yet, but we're working on that.
Very nice. I like that.
And it's the grower is in the northern part of the Peloponnese. It's an organic producer, and they own like nearly the highest vineyards of all of Greece. It goes up to 3,500 feet.
So the highest elevation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The highest elevation.
Yep.
And so this has a little bit of a cool climate touch to
Let's
it.
give it a roll. So let's give it a
sure.
snippy sniff. So the nose is quite intriguing. I think it's very fresh. You know, there's a little bit of like star fruit, you know, kiwi, papaya, almost like green tropical fruit almost coming through.
And I think it has a very, very open nose. And, you know, you get tropical fruits, you also get peaches, and I think...
And there's some almost minerality even on the nose.
Definitely some minerality on the nose. And also some,
Crushed
you know,
rock.
hints of green pepper coming in. And I think it has also...
I like the nose.
Great.
I like it, yeah.
I also think there's a lot of like really ripe pear in it.
So it's very clean on the palate. It's got, you know, it's funny. It's got nice weight. It feels heavier, let's say, than like a Riesling or Sauvignon Blanc. But I will say, the flavor profile for my palate at least, it's pretty simple. It's not the most complex wine
It's not the most complex wine.
I've ever had by any stretch.
Should be drunk within the first couple of years, but it has a lot of fruitiness and it has a very nice acidity coming in. I mean, it feels, you have a little bit of weight on it, and then the acidity really kicks in.
I mean, this is really a quaffing wine. You know, get it nice and chilled if you want. You know, I like room temperature. But, you know, summertime by the pool, you know, you got fruit and cheese. This is not going to stand up to a lot of foods, including, in my opinion, at least this specific one. Not maybe the Malagousia grape, but this specific one is so simple. I'd even be scared to pair it up with some fish dishes because this is pretty, you know, simple for my palate.
I think you might be surprised. You should try it with some Indian food.
Indian food.
Yeah.
I can see
I
that.
think
So
it's
you mean like the
quite
curry, the
interesting.
spiciness? I can see that.
I think it works quite
So
nicely.
it almost
with
has almost like the flexibility of what a Gewürztraminer could possibly bring to the
Exactly.
table. I could see that. There is a hint of I wouldn't call it lychee fruit, but like mochi, kind of like there's some really interesting kind of like spices on this
Yeah.
wine. I guess, you know, to me, the only thing that surprised me is for the weight, it's a little simplistic on the palate. Just for me, just a hair. A little bit more than I expected.
And it's also, it has just been bottled, by the way.
Fair
just
enough.
like a few
Let me
weeks
ask you a
ago.
question.
Sure.
Is this norm for the Malagousia grape, or do you feel like it,
No,
has,
you
it
get-
tends to have a little more complexity?
You know-
or are you disagree? Do you find this a little simplistic as well, or do you think there's more going on here than maybe I'm painting a picture?
No, I think it's a little bit simplistic, but I want to show a wine, you know, within the price range as well.
Yeah.
It's easy. I could have easily gotten a Malagousia, which is really rich and deep for
And
double the
20s,
money.
got it.
You know, but I
Needed
think
to know
it's
that.
kind of important to tell the people as well that hey, there are some really interesting wines in Greece with a good profile that doesn't cost a lot of money.
I mean, if you're guesstimating 10 to 15, it's conceivable this wine could sell for $8.99, $9.99, and if that was the case, I think it would challenge many things that we're drinking in that price point here in the States.
Right.
I think it'd be a very fascinating debate to debate this versus an Over Oak soulless Chardonnay, or, you know, just your typical black and white New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, and then you start, you know, your heartless Pinot Grigios that are $9.99.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this
Absolutely.
is
I mean, this will
clearly
stand up, yeah.
absolutely okay.
All
Good,
right.
interesting. Let's move on. Weird. Did you see that, Mott? Did we catch that? Got it myself. All right, let's move on. So this is Alexandria's.
This
This
is
is
from
interesting. It sounds like the name of your wife.
well, which it's not.
a coincidence.
It's the name of the daughter of the winemaker.
Got it.
Now this is
Nostos?
Nostos is the name.
08 of the
Nostos
wine?
Alexander 08. It's a Rhone variety.
Right, 40 Syrah, 40 Mourvèdre, and 20 Grenache in French oak. So you're going very kind of like Rhone.
Absolutely. This I want to show
Let's do a
because I know
rinse.
you like Rhone.
I love Rhone. Thank you for knowing.
And Manousakis, the winery is in Crete. Crete is the largest Greek island, the most southern Greek island as well. And the father, Mr. Manousakis, he's actually, he lives in the States. In the 50s, he went to the States, and then he came back in the beginning of the 90s and started this
So
winery.
lived in the States for 40 years.
Oh, yeah, he's still living here.
Still living here.
Still living here. He started the winery because he wanted to start a winery
And this is
in Crete.
22 U.S. bones. Double deuce.
Yeah, double juice, exactly. And he had lots of consultants. It's actually Laurence Perrault from Domaine Perrault. She's still an active consultant there.
Very nice.
And they did lots of work on the, the structure of the, which grapes should be grown there from the terroir, and they decided to grow only Rhone varietals.
So an enologist, vineyard manager, kind of did a soil sampling and said, this is Rhone.
Yeah.
And are there a lot of Rhone producers in this area?
He was the first one. I mean, he is. I call him, funnily, like the Greek Rhone Ranger, because he really put the varietals on the map.
The Greek Rhone Ranger is funny. That's
and by now, I think Syrah is quite successfully grown all over Greece now. But this is, this is like
great. I mean, the bouquet is off the charts. I mean, this is where it gets interesting to me. We haven't had the wine yet, but I guess I'll kind of let me take myself out of Wine Library TV for a second and just talk. Maybe pretend he's not here. Maybe pretend it's not even a show. If I was just hanging with you guys drinking wine and we just did a weird tasting and bring all this new stuff, smelling this wine is the reason I'm in this industry. It's the reason I got excited about wine when I had Barossa Shiraz for the first, and McLaren Vale and Langhorne Creek when nobody was talking about that in the late 90s. The first time I had Central Otago Pinot Noir in 2000 and said, ooh, New Zealand can make great Pinot Noir. To me, this moment, and again, the wine could fall and could be devastated. And we've been devastated, Mott, on this show many a times. But smelling this wine says to me, oh my God, is there another place in the world that could be producing this kind of style wine, this Southern Rhone style wine that I like so much, and Northern for that matter, because this nose is just, let me come back in, this nose is like spectacular and salivates the palate to wondering what's going to happen here in the glass.
And this is actually one of the basic lime wines from them.
That scares me and excites me. Though I will say one thing. And there's a little fruity, kind of like oaky component here that this is the kind of wine that could go too far. We'll see. Yep. Has it in certain vintages gone a little too over the top for you?
This has been introduced just a few years ago.
Got it. So, again, 2 wines in a row now for me. The very interesting thing, this is very interesting. I'd almost say that this was like an imaginary blend of a Chateauneuf-du-Pape marrying a top cru Beaujolais.
That's an interesting take. Yeah.
Because the flavors are there, but the weight is lighter. It's fresher. In a weird way, it makes sense for the part of the world that says, this is the kind of wine that if you're fascinated by the Rhone flavors, that strawberry pepper that I'm getting here, but that Chateauneuf-du-Pape at 15.7 alcohol is going to be too big for your fit. This actually feels like a red wine that I could drink with fish. Which is funny because I associate, the Mediterranean fare.
Oh, absolutely.
I associate in my head, like, when I go, every time I think of, Greece, I just feel like I want to go catch a fish, go on the beach, get a fire, and just, like, eat the whole fish, suck the eye out. Like,
That's what we do all the time. But you live in the wrong country.
I know. I mean, that's such an amazing way to eat for me.
It is.
And this wine feels like it's more tailor-made for that cuisine.
Yeah, this you can actually drink with a fish, right? I mean, it doesn't kill.
How about this? This you can actually drink. I mean, the American palate. Listen, there was a very controversial wine that we had on Cinderella Wine. I just did Wine Library TV. La Secrets. It was a Syrah from Italy that was too light for Syrah, and then they thought there was some grapefruit flavors, which was high on the minerality. Actually, is what was going on there, I think. But when I was tasting this, it made me think of that because I said to myself, "Wow, I like this. I like the elegance and the refinement of this." Yeah. But I think there's going to be some consumers that would be disappointed in this wine at $22 because it doesn't have the weight that they've expected for this kind of blend around the world. And I think that is a good thing, not a bad thing. Because I think it's time to debate that not all wines have to be so heavy. Wines that are lighter like this doesn't mean they're less complex. They just have different body feel.
Absolutely not. And there is, there is a very nice elegance to it.
You know what I would compare it to? In today's modern age of society, very thin girls get respected. It's like a good thing. Tans, darker skin. You go back hundreds and hundreds of years, fuller and pale were respected. And I feel like we're tasting this wine in the future. I feel like 25 years from now, there's a very good chance, especially paying attention to the way that we're dieting, the way we're eating, the way we're taking care of ourselves, that this style, as a matter of fact, what I'm excited about is I know that somebody will watch this video in 30 years. if you're watching this in 2030, number one, can you believe how many Super Bowls the Jets have won? And number two, this style right now is not as respected in the American palate and the worldwide palate, but I think it's time for people to start debating great flavor and a little bit of a lighter body.
Great.
Is that something that you've been thinking, like when you taste this, do you recognize
when
that this is lighter than...
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, compared to Chateauneuf, there is no
or,
doubt
or
in
the
my
California
mind that
stuff,
it's lighter.
or the other, a lot of places in the world that use these varietals tend to be heavier.
But you
than
know,
this.
it's nice because of this. You can drink 2 glasses, right? With the Chateauneuf, you work on your first glass, and you have to get involved, which is not a bad thing. But sometimes, you know, it's just great to just simply enjoy a very good wine.
You know what's funny about that? I've noticed, and I didn't realize this was happening. I'm being very retrospectful now compared to the wines that I'm starting to enjoy. And this is a style that I'm leaning towards more and more daily. I used to drink casually white wine and taste red wine because you couldn't drink it.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I'd have one glass of Turley Zinn and I was done. I mean, yes, okay, comments are going to say lightweight and all that, but, the fact of the matter is it was just much more fun to consume white wine for me because it's cleaner, crisper, easier. And red wine like this, it's why I always stand up for Beaujolais. When I have a great Morgon or Fleury, Mal en Avant, those are wines I could drink.
Absolutely.
It's what I loved about Pinot until Pinot got, sideways out.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Good stuff. I liked it. I liked it with the caveat of it's not for a lot of people that are watching today, but I think it can be, and I think it's time to debate that it should be. All right, let's do big rinse here. Now, this one we've decanted a little bit.
Yeah.
So what's the story with this guy?
Well, this is Xinomavro.
Xinomavro.
Which is one of the
really... Great package.
It's actually...
Llanos?
So just going out of the picture, it's Llanos. This is currently on the US market, and this is the package for next year. This we have in Europe.
Same wine,
Same
new
wine,
package.
just...
Great looking package. Now, Mark Squires, who reviews for Robert Parker's Wine Advocate, am I going to be able to steal that one and take it home? Yes. Awesome.
Absolutely. What can you say if you ask like this?
91 and 93 point Squires. Squires is tough, and $25 US. Is this in the States now?
This is available in the States now, yes. Now this
and who's importing it?
Atheny importers.
Okay.
Currently, yeah.
Okay.
This is Xinomavro, is one of the great red grapes we have in Greece. It can produce really stunning, rich wines that are just fantastic and can age for decades, literally. If it's poorly made or not well made, it's thin acid.
Thin.
If it's not a good winemaker, it can taste awful. So you really have to know your way around. It's a little bit like in Burgundy, where you have some great producers who work magic, and others that you think, how can you charge something for it? This is a producer, Thimiopoulos. The vineyards were always family owned for generations, but they always sold the grapes to other growers. And the son came in. He studied in Athens, I think. And he came in 2004 and said, look, Daddy, I really think we should make our own wine, and I want to give it a go. And in 2004, he produced the first vintage in a total different style. Usually Xinomavro quite often is made in a more traditional style, and he used it, he made a little bit more modern example of it.
Now Xinomavro.
Xinomavro, yeah.
Is it tied to any other grapes in the world, or again, indigenous?
Again, indigenous.
And how many indigenous grapes are there in Greece? Do you know?
Roughly 200.
200.
Roughly 200, but they make commercially. They produce wines out of about 50 varietals.
So 50.
50. But
so if Greece
really,
if Greece explodes in the U.S.,
yeah,
which would be great, right?
Which it will, right?
There will be 20 to 25 to 30 new grape varietals we'll all be talking about.
Yeah, I think.
And which would be the top 3 to 5?
Okay, I think for the reds it's going to be Aioitico.
Aioitico
and Xinomavro.
Yep.
I think these two are the red ones. And on the whites, it's of course Acetico.
Yeah.
Malagousia, Moscofilero.
Yeah, Muscatafilio has probably gotten some of the most traction here in the States at this point. We've seen, at least from the suppliers I've seen, I don't know what the numbers look like nationally, but we've seen more producers started to bring those in.
Yeah. Yeah, Moscofilero, there are quite a few of the medium-sized producers have Moscofilero.
Exactly.
It's probably also where you see them.
So let's give this a shot. Now this is bombastic. Now this is getting me excited because this, again, in the current state of the palate in the States, is a style I think a lot of people like. It's very aggressive on the nose. There's this beautiful dark cherry, juicy nose, very big. You know, comes across like almost like what people love about Zins, what people love about Syrah, what people love about Priorat. It's got those kind of aromatics, dark chocolate, cherry kind of thing going on. Let's give it a whirl. Xinomavro. Wow.
Xinomavro, this is 2007, which was actually a great vintage.
2006 or 2007?
This is 2007. 2007.
And this is also 2007.
Yep, that's also.
But just a new package?
This is the package we already have in Europe.
Got
and
it.
that will be on the market.
Same wine
same
or
wine.
not? Same wine.
Same wine.
Right off the bat, there's this beautiful sour cherry. There's a great creaminess, great body, very smooth, not too over the top, but definitely a bigger wine than the last wines we've had. Great structure, very appealing flavor profile. I like this. I like this a lot. Almost like an imaginary blend. We're doing imaginary blends today of a top flight, well-produced Zinfandel meeting a really great Burgundian Pinot Noir. So you get this really great, juicy flavor intensity, but there's definitely this round, almost Pinot-like characteristic to this. It's very interesting.
It's very velvety, but it has lots of tannins.
Great minerality.
This will age. Lots of minerality.
Great minerality. I mean, if you love the minerals.
It's, for me personally, I mean, Xinomavro is really producing some of the most exciting wines on the planet currently.
I like this. I mean, again, 3 wines. And it's, such a small, don't take this as gospel. But again, not too heavy.
Not too heavy, no.
I mean, this is a big theme. Is this, I mean, these are great wines. You decided to bring these. Is that a ringing theme? I mean, are these wines a little bit more balanced than the rest of the world? Because the rest of the world decided to go that route.
I think the talented winemakers, they're quite often, new generation, and they're doing things a bit differently. And it's also my personal style, so it's probably I picked wines that fit my style as well.
It's good.
But I really think in Greece you have great people doing their work at the moment, and they're changing the whole landscape in Greece.
They're changing the wine world in Greece?
They're changing the Greek wine world, exactly.
I love this wine. I think it's fantastic. For my palate, just to give you kind of a scope, this is probably a 91-point wine to me. I thought it was fantastic. Squires knocked it out of Park to Alexandra. It's probably, 88, 89 for my palate. Probably lower for some. I just want to put that. And the Malagousia I liked, but too simple to get me too excited. Probably more like an 85-pointer. This is spectacular and very intriguing for me. Let me ask you a question. Where are the big Greek communities in the U.S. that we're seeing the consumption? Is there certain states? As an immigrant, I know that we tend to go into certain areas.
I think you have Washington, you have the New York area, you probably have Chicago, and then you probably, I don't even know, San Francisco.
So there's no like in the Russian community, Brighton Beach. For Russians, is like
I could tell you for Australia, but in the States, I don't know, honestly.
In Australia, there is a spot?
In Australia, Melbourne is the second largest Greek city in the world. You have Athens, then Melbourne, and then it's Thessaloniki again.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Listen, thank you so much for being
on the show. It was an honor to be here. Thanks so much.
Couple things. One big shout out to David Tights, big user of the Cinderella wine and Wine Library TV. Onu Milio, congratulations, graduating from pharmacy school, Mott, and getting married, which is a big deal. And you get to ask the question of the day.
Well, thank you very much.
I know you've been...
2 things. First of all, I really like to interact, so what's your Twitter name? Write it down here so I start following you when I come back to Europe.
Brilliant.
And second question,
We'll link your Twitter name so they can follow you. So, Mott...
It's Eleanor's, we're going to link it up, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And second question... I want everyone to play Gary for a moment. If you're Gary and you have these wines to taste, is there any one wine that you think you would want to get your hands on to store it and sell it to the customers? Is this something you don't think will be appealing to the customers? It's not, I don't want to push because I can't sell to Gary anyway, but I'm really interested in your thoughts.
I want to pay $1 for everything.
Nice try.
You, with a little bit of me, we're changing the wine world.